World turning round and round, see this in and every town. Never here, I just roam. Questions leave me alone. Suspicion in their eyes, is it wrong to live in disguise? Misdemeanor or a crime? I just wonder all the time. You don't need my ID, just let me be, let me be. Dirty bacon on my trail, in this world I won't fail. Catch me if you can, always moving, I'm the man. Rooms with no names, just beds filled with thoughts in my head. On a train or in the sky, I'm the one who loves to fly. No chains to hold me down, freedom's what I found. You don't need my ID, just let me be, let me be. Dirty bacon on my trail, in this world I won't fail. Catch me if you can, always moving, I'm the man. Rooms with no names, just beds filled with thoughts in my head. On a train or in the sky, I'm the one who loves to fly. No chains to hold me down, freedom's what I found. You don't need my ID, just let me be, let me be. Dirty bacon on my trail, in this world I won't fail.
Of that right here on Live Now from Fox. But I'm your host, Mike Page. I'll be with you for the next 4 hours, breaking down the day's biggest top stories and, of course, all of the live feeds that will be coming out of Chicago. So I want to show you how the day started for Chicagoans there in that city and really everyone else across the country when they saw on the left there, that is the post that President Trump put on his Truth Social. He took a meme that somebody gave to him, and he posted this saying, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War." And as you can imagine, the Democrats in Chicago and Illinois not liking that. This is from the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, saying the president's threats are beneath the honor of our nation, but the reality is that he wants to occupy our city and break our Constitution. We must defend our democracy from this authoritarianism by protecting each other and protecting Chicago from Donald Trump. And then also from Governor J.B. Pritzker saying the president of the United States is threatening to go to war with an American city. This is not a joke. This is not normal. Donald Trump isn't a strong man. He's a scared man. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator. And then lastly here, this is the former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, who has really been on the side of President Trump ever since he was pardoned and really commuted there from his sentence. Rod Blagojevich saying there have been 147,899 reported crimes in Chicago this year. That's nearly 600 crimes committed every single day. In the first 249 days of 2025, 278 people have been murdered. Yet Governor Pritzker says crime is not a problem problem and vows to sue if Trump sends help. So you saw there from the reaction from the Democrats that they are acting like President Trump is trying to have some sort of war with Chicago or Illinois by sending in the Guard. But President Trump has said over and over again that he just wants to try to reduce the crime in the city, much like what he has been seeing in Washington, D.C. So a little bit later, we'll show you a protest that happened in Washington, D.C. as well. But since we are talking about Chicago, let's show you some of the protests that happened just a little bit ago. You are watching Live Now from Fox.
A woman was depositing a check at the bank, but when it fell into a storm drain, the Frost banker went in and got it?
Some speakers in the community who will remind us why we're here today. Because we know that when the Trump administration says that ICE is going after criminals, that's a damn lie. We know that they're not going after criminals. They're going after our communities. One, two. Can y'all hear me from this? They're coming after our communities. When they say they're just going after criminals, it's a lie. A lie. But when they say they're just going after immigrants, that's a lie too. They're coming after all of us. We paid attention to LA. We paid attention to DC. And we know that the country is watching what Chicago was going to do for when their city is next. I know that's right. They're not just coming for immigrants. Because in LA, when they sent the Marines there, the Marines showed the local police how to occupy the city like a military force. And then after the ICE blitz on the communities, 70 Marines stayed as a regular force. So they're expanding the repression of our communities. It's not just a one-time thing. It's not just for the control of immigrant communities. In D.C., when they federalized the police, they went straight to the hood. They went straight to black communities, talking about fighting crime and fighting deportation. But they know that they're coming for us. It's a dog whistle for an attack on the whole working class. And so we are here to say that we are not distracted. That we know what's going on, that we have clarity. That we have the will and the courage to have solidarity to fight. You know, there's an old African proverb that says, don't fall for the okie doke. And the okie doke, the trick is to think that they're just going after immigrants, but we know they're coming after all of us. Because when they cut Medicaid, when they cut SNAP, when they expand the prison system, when they expand police budgets, they know that it's our communities who are the only ones that have the guts to stand up. So these ICE raids are the ruling class getting ready to repress us. But this protest is us getting ready to win, to overturn the system, for a system that works for working people, where no one ever has to live in fear, where we can end racism, where we can end war, where we can end deportation. And so we're here today to reject the collaboration between ICE, the military, local police, the sellouts. We're here because only the people will save the people. And this is not just a one-day struggle. They want to occupy Chicago. But every single day that they are here, they will learn lesson after lesson after lesson that we will resist and that we will resist. And so the first lesson we have for them is from the local community organizing here in Lake County. Give it up for Jordan.
ICE out of Waukegan. ICE out of Waukegan. everyone showing up today like you all have shown up in great numbers. I'm looking back. That's a lot of y'all here. So that's a good sign because we want to build visible public sentiment that we're not okay with this, right? And what I want to say today to the people that are from the North Chicago, Waukegan, Zion areas specifically is that I don't know what they got going on over there, but listen, this is a moment where everyone in our communities can step up and exemplify leadership, especially with our communities being the way that they are right now. Anyone can be a leader. You don't have to wait on the mayor to tell you to do this or that, whether that's Leon Rockingham or Mayor Sam Cunningham in Waukegan. Everybody has a right and a duty in this time to become a leader in their own personal sector, right? And build bridges and connect and fill gaps, okay? Because oftentimes the reason why what's transpiring is because we don't have the social organizing infrastructure that we need to really repel these things, okay? So if you take away anything from today, it's that it's time to become a leader. And it's time to step up and stand up for your community. And you don't need anybody to tell you to do that. You don't need your city officials to tell you that. You don't even need groups like PSL or DSA or others. I'm saying that to say that you can do it on your own, right? Because it's just a decision that you have to make, okay? And connect with others that are already building. You see this stuff that's already built, all these organizations out here, whether that be people like Mano a Mano even, Center for Immigrant Progress, right? Connect with all of these people and help to enrich and expand their networks in our city that lacks so much, okay? So keep showing out, y'all. Keep defying this openly. You know, if you're a citizen right now, especially if you're from the Latin community, it's time for you to step up a little bit more, right? There's many of us in the Latin community that can't defy this, that can't come outside, that actually risk deportation to participate in things like this. So what I need from mi gente is to step up, go harder, go stronger, and fuck ICE. That's right. Fuck ICE! 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 Make some noise out, make some noise! And so we are not distracted. Everybody stay focused. I need everybody to stay focused. Stay focused. Stay focused. We have a revolutionary feminist organization here to speak because we know ICE is coming for families. ICE is coming for children. ICE is coming for women. So we are going to have our comrade, Danica, speak up. Put concrete. Everybody make some noise. United will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thank you for coming out. It's super important. We're here to resist both the National Guard deployment to our city, but also the deployment of ICE to terrorize our neighbors. So let's start with Trump's claims about Chicago. He claims Chicago's crime is so rampant that he has to send the military to occupy our city. You know what makes Chicago its investments in healthcare, education, and housing, and things that actually improve materially people. Flooding our city with people and with guns and tanks that don't know us, don't care about us, and are sent by a fascist president isn't going to keep us safe.
That's right.
And that's if we believe that's even the point in the first place. But just like the ICE raids, the point is intimidation. Trump is trying to see what he can get away with in Chicago so he can do it all over the country. Will we let him? Absolutely. What we're seeing now is the war economy in true form. We spend $1 trillion on the Pentagon and war budget every single year. And what does that money go towards? Coup attempts, undermining democracy in Latin America, undermining popular people's movements all over the global south, and destabilizing socialist economies like Cuba and Venezuela. The U.S. war machine is the very thing that fuels the immigration that they claim to hate so much. If we are interested in real solutions, we need to divest from war, defund the Pentagon, and get troops and ICE out of our cities. And invest that $1 trillion that we spend annually, half of which that goes to private companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing. Half of the $1 trillion every year goes to private companies. We need to take that money and invest it in things that actually make us safer, like housing, healthcare, and education. Thank you.
Give it up for our comrades. The people united will never be defeated. I said the people united will never be defeated. I said el pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Make some noise, y'all, make some noise. We're building solidarity across all of our communities. We have feminist organizations, we have local neighborhood organizations, we have militant socialist organizations, and we have faith community here. We have Christians, a congregation that has been serious about standing up for immigrants, about standing up for queer rights, for trans rights. So make some noise for Pastor Mike.
First of all, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Who expected such a large crowd here to come out this afternoon to stand up and to speak out against the fear and intimidation intentionally inflicted on our community at this time. Okay? To speak out against the attempts to incite hatred and fear, distrust, and suspicion among us, all in a desire for more power and personal or political gain. It is a scary time, a surreal time that many of us hoped would never happen in this country again. But here we are. So thank you for being here, standing up and speaking out through your presence, through your signs, through your words, through your bullhorns and the energy here. The level of anxiety, I'm at St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Waukegan, in the heart of Waukegan, and I tell you, many of you know that the anxiety on the streets of Waukegan is like bouncing off the ceiling. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the parking lot of one of the grocery stores, a couple of the grocery stores on Lewis Avenue in Waukegan, after there was a report that ICE was present and arresting people. I got there, and it turned out to be a false report, as there are many false reports going around. Anxiety. But I get there, and I meet a guy sitting in his car who asked a few Know Your Rights cards, and I handed one to this guy, and he was sitting there. He's sitting in his car, waiting for his wife to come out of the store, and he asked for one of those cards. We had a brief conversation. He lives in Waukegan. He is from Mexico, but has long been a U.S. citizen. And he has grown increasingly uncomfortable living here. It feels like being trapped. It feels like being trapped. And he said people give him looks as though he doesn't belong here. Okay? Looks as though he doesn't belong here, and he worries about whether or not he should carry his passport with him so that he could identify himself, that he's afraid that ICE might take it. It's become difficult living here, he said, and he sometimes thinks about moving back to Mexico. That's the milieu or fog of fear that this administration is casting over our community. A fear that unsettles and divides people. Now, we can argue over immigration policy, and this country has done that from its beginning. I used to be a newspaper reporter before I became a pastor and covered government. And I know that there can be honest differences of opinion about how government should address the issues of the day. What's disturbing here, though, is the incitement of hate to achieve a political end. We have seen that before in history. What's disturbing is the disregard for the well-being of families, the callous separation of families, the instigation of fear and suspicion, the disappearing of people off the streets, the building of internment camps with great glee, the military takeover of cities.
Webstaurant store.
30 chairs, non-squeak.
Webstaurant store.
15 non-wobbly tables.
Fear and hate is what we're dealing with here. We can argue about immigration policies and enforcement, but there can be no argument over whether we treat people with concern and care. Whether we treat families, whether we treat children with care and concern for their well-being as human beings, as the beloved children of God that they are. I do think God has something to say about what's going on. We are living in a time when a middle-aged U.S. citizen sitting in his car in a parking lot waiting for his wife as she does the grocery shopping is worried and is fearful because he is brown and he is from Mexico. That's not right, and it's not just. And inflicting that kind of anxiety and fear is not what decent people do to people. In my faith tradition, there is a passage from the Old Testament that should shape our response to the events unfolding around us. It says, when an alien resides with you in your land, you shall not oppress the alien. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were once aliens in the land of Egypt. Again, I thank you for showing up here today, for speaking up here today. Don't let the fear mongers and the hate mongers win. The only antidote to fear and hate is standing together in love for the sake and the well-being of all our neighbors. Keep doing it peacefully but persistently. Lives depend on it. Thank you.
All right, folks, we got one more speaker before we march. Are y'all ready? We know we need a full transformation of the immigration system in this country. Our people need work permits, but work permits are not enough. We need a path to citizenship. A real path, not a phony path. And when people become citizens, they need a place to stay, they need a place to work, they need a place to get health care, and they need the political power. They need the political power to lead our communities with us. And so with that being said, welcome our last speaker, Brandon Hymas from the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. 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 Make some noise, y'all. It's so beautiful to see you all out here because today we brought the fight to their front door. Today I'm speaking with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm also speaking as a worker in immigration law, as a labor organizer, and as the proud son of Mexican immigrants. The last few months have been devastating for those of us working in immigrant rights. I've seen clients lose access to their benefits, and now they have to deal with the daily anxiety of being potentially detained and deported by ICE agents. But I'm not here because I believe the law will save us. I'm here because I believe in the power of working class people like you and me to make change. Trump is talking a lot of shit about an immigrant invasion, but we know the truth. And that truth is that the only invasion we have in Chicago right now is the invasion of agents right behind those gates. He's giving $200 million to ICE this year. And we know that with that money, we could be funding healthcare, education, housing, and our public transit in our cities. These people don't know our city, they don't know our struggle, and they don't know how to solve our problems. So I'll ask you directly because we're right here. Do you want ICE in your communities? No! I want them to hear you inside there. Do you want ICE in your communities? No! Do you want the National Guard in your communities? No! Now make some noise if you were inspired by the brave resistance we've seen in LA. LA is a critical example because they didn't sit still in the face of oppression. When ICE came to their communities, they had organizers follow their asses with speakers to announce their presence. And organizers figured out what hotels they were staying at, and they showed up at 3 in the morning to make it impossible for them to sleep. And in Ventura County, when ICE targeted farm workers, organizers brought the fight and they brought the community to the farm. So here in Chicago, we're planning around very similar mobilizations, and we need you to get involved in that resistance. Right now, we have Migra Watch networks popping up across the city. I'm a part of Pilsen Puño, and we need everyone here to be involved in that community defense. Let me ask you, make some noise if you're here from Waukegan. Make some noise if you're here from Chicago. Make some noise if you're here from the suburbs. That's right. So that right there should show you that we have people on the ground here that can be putting eyes in our communities. And that's what it's going to take down ICE. So please, today, get connected with the Migra Watch Network. And if you don't know if you have one in your community, talk to us about starting one. Because while they use the same tactics of terror, we're going to keep growing and we're going to innovate on our tactics of resistance. Because as long as they're terrorizing our communities, we're going to make it impossible for them to do their jobs. But that's only going to happen if we get organized and we stay organized, because we need to build something that lasts through our struggles. Trump is going to keep attacking our communities, our most vulnerable communities. He's already attacking the trans community. He's attacked our Palestinian community, and he's going to attack our black community. So what we need is to build and unite across those struggles, to build something that lasts and to anticipate those struggles. Because at the end of the day, what Trump is trying to do is distract us from the fact that his billionaire agenda is going to keep on going forward unless we unite to resist it.
And that was from a protest earlier today. We are going to continue our coverage in just moments in Chicago. More to come. And we bring it to you all right here on Live Now from Fox in 2 minutes.
Encouraging people to go out to that family-friendly event. Here in downtown Chicago, you can see the organizers are getting ready. They're going to hold a news conference before they begin their march. It's not known how many people are going to be here to join them. Just past them, I don't know if you can see, there is a lot of Chicago police are here to keep the peace while this goes on. They are gathered over there and at other corners here on Michigan Avenue. Tourist activity is still going on here. So it's quiet right now, but this will be getting going in a few minutes. That Mexican Independence Day parade that took place earlier, I was in touch with the organizers, and people were braced for any kind of ICE activity. They said ICE did not show up at their parade, and in fact, they had a bigger crowd than they've ever had, a couple thousand more than in the past. So they're calling it a big success. But right now, we are getting ready for what is supposed to be a big march in downtown Chicago. Reporting live, I'm Joni Lum. Now back to you.
Joni, thanks so much for those updates. We'll be for sure to take that live news conference when it does happen in Chicago. Thanks so much for joining us and bringing us the latest from downtown. We'll be back with more in just moments on Live Now.
Oh, yeah. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to lower that for you. Yes. We got the sign already, so if you need okay. We got that already. Okay. All right. First and last name once again.
Sure. My name is Vicky Lugo. Thank you all so much for being here. I am board member of United Merchants of Pilsen Chamber of Commerce. And we're here because our community is supporting us. Our community is helping us, and not only our community, because we have marshals from all over the city, from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. It's not only Latino marshals, we have from all ethnicities that are here supporting us. And this is why we're doing the parade, because we have the support of the community, of the city, of everyone. And we encourage everyone to be able to come out here to support, to celebrate with us our different cultures, our different traditions. I understand the fear. There are many people that are scared. We want to ensure that everyone is safe. So those that are at risk, stay home, celebrate at home. But I'm sorry. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. So, Vic, can I get the whistle? I'm sorry. In the front. Sorry. So we have some whistles that are going to be given. Thank you. That are going to be given to volunteers. This whistle here is very loud. It gets everyone's attention. You can hear it a mile away, and so our marshals are going to be having these whistles that, in case, these are our last resort. We're going to use these when all other strategies have been fulfilled. Marshals are going to contact us. Marshals are going to contact the police. And the last resort would be to use this whistle. 3 continuous whistles like this will mean that ICE sighting. A continuous whistle like this means that someone is getting arrested. I did not blow it very hard, very loud, because it's very loud and I have a migraine. But the continuous whistle means that someone is getting arrested. These are our last resort because we do not want to create chaos. We do not want to create panic. We want everyone to be safe. We do not think that the National Guard, that immigration agents will be in the parade or will try to create any panic, any chaos, because this is a peaceful event. This is a family event, and we're going to have many, many people participating in the parade, but also spectators, families, children specifically. And we want to ensure everyone is safe. And if immigration agents or National Guard were to come, it's putting a lot of lives in danger, specifically children. They can get run over, they can be trampled over. And so that would be very dangerous for everyone. So we don't think, but if that were to happen, we're prepared. We're working closely with CPD. We have many volunteers that are going to be throughout the parade to ensure that everyone is kept safe.
That was a little bit from Chicago earlier today, and we continue to bring you the very latest from the city. Coming up in moments, there will be a news conference to a new March protest that will be happening. We'll take you there when it does. In the meantime, we'll take a 2-minute break, and when we come back, we will take you near the White House, where another big protest happened in D.C. today. We'll be back in 2.
Few months ago, I found out that is not the case. I found out that there are those who have no respect for who we are in Washington, D.C., though we are the home of a we the people government. So how do we turn that around? I think we've got to remember how the heck we ever had a we the people government. Next year, we're going to celebrate on the 4th of July 250 years of this country. What are we celebrating? Are we celebrating the Constitution? No. Are we celebrating the inauguration of a president who happened to be the only one who was elected unanimously? No. We are celebrating the day that 56 individuals put their lives on the line and engaged in an act of treason against the Great Britain when they said, I'm not going to accept the abuse, the disrespect of a distant, insensitive king. I will put everything on the line and declare my independence. That is who we are. And we must remember that. Benjamin Franklin said we better hang together, because if we don't, we will certainly hang separately. The only way we will be free in we are free. And it is well within our reach. So DC, you're awake. You got it. You got the memo, how they see us. Let's close ranks and free DC.
Let's hear it for the mayor, Sharon Pratt. Give her a warm round of applause. Just a few words about what brought us here. It was after that Declaration of Independence, which, by the way, if you read it, every word of it applies to what we're dealing with here in D.C. today. There was no democracy for the colonists. They had no rights to their own laws. They had no rights to their own budget. And so they staged a revolution against King George III. But then the first chance they got to build a nation's capital, they brought it here. And we have to have respect for those who stood before us. Not just the originators of the Free DC movement, but our enslaved ancestors who built this city, designed it and organized it for free. The original sin, the original crime. And then during the Civil Rights Movement, after Bloody Sunday, March of 1965, and the march from Selma to Montgomery, we were able to get the Voting Rights Act passed in August of 1965. When Lyndon Johnson held the signing ceremony at the White House, after that ceremony, the Reverend Walter Fauntleroy asked Dr. King to lead a march through D.C. for home rule. We weren't even talking about statehood yet. Just a march for home rule and an elected government. In 1965, Voting Rights Act for America, still no home rule for those of us in Washington, D.C. And then a year later, SNCC arrived here. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, in the person of Frank Smith, James Foreman, and others, and of course, Marion Barry, who would one day be mayor of Washington, D.C. We have to lift up the names of those who fought hard. Julius Hobson, Josephine Butler, Hilda Mason, and then even those who are contemporary now, Anise Jenkins of the Stand Up for Democracy Coalition. And just like we don't know, sadly, every name of every person on that Edmund Pettus Bridge with John Lewis, there are countless names, thousands in 1993 who went to jail every Thursday to stand up for democracy and to stand up for D.C. statehood. We didn't come this far to stop. We didn't come this far to give up. We have to keep on going. We can't turn back no matter what. We are on the cusp of our freedom. And believe it or not, no good.
All right, everyone. So that was from earlier today in Washington, D.C. But you see in the corner there of the screen, that is an active protest that just got going in the city of Chicago. So let's go there right now on Live Now from Fox.
No registry, no white supremacy. No ban, 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 no registry.
if y'all would put your fists up in the air in solidarity, we can see you. Thank you, elected officials, for standing with the people tonight. Also, want to give a special thank you to Frank Chapman from Carper, who's with us this evening. We know you've been struggling so much. He didn't even let a hospital stay keep him from being here. That's right. That's what it means to be here for the people. As you have seen, the Trump administration has been escalating their illegal attacks on the city. Let me say that again. Their illegal attacks on our city. We have a federal government that instead of supporting our community, is using its vast resources to hurt us. We see this with the use of mass vigilante ICE agents stalking people at the domestic violence courthouse. We saw it just this morning. They chased someone down at a supermarket while they were out shopping with their families. We have seen and heard from our allies in D.C. and California about what the authoritarian playbook looks like. And now they are bringing it here, into our streets, our neighborhoods, and even our celebrations. When they threaten us during the time of one of our city's largest celebrations of heritage, Mexican Independence Day parade, they are sending a message that no space is safe, no moment of joy is beyond their reach. These attacks are not just on individuals. They are attacks on who we are as a city and on the communities that make Chicago vibrant and strong. Let's be, yes, give it up for yourselves. Let's be clear. That is exactly what this is. They are concentrating wealth and power in the hands of a few while tapping into white supremacist prejudices and fears to scapegoat our communities and distract us from them robbing us. But we aren't here to just name what's happening. We are here to show what we are going to do about it. That's right. We are going to stand united with our neighbors, immigrants, black folks, look, the people of Chicago. Right now, our rapid response teams are out informing our communities about their rights and fighting tooth and nail to ensure that civil due process is upheld. Our job right now is to take to the streets, defend our spaces, and keep each other safe. Are you with me? Uniting in solidarity, educating our community, and resisting together. This is how we defend our home. From the south side to the north side to the west side to the yes, and to the suburbs. Can't forget the suburbs and beyond. Somebody back here knows. This is how we stop them from terrorizing our people. This is how we protect our families and ourselves. Because this is our home. And we won't stop until ICE and Trump are out of our neighborhoods, our city, our state. Because we keep us safe. Who keeps us safe? Who keeps us safe? Who keeps us safe? If you see ICE in your neighborhood, you might get a little sheet going around. If you see them in your neighborhood, please, or if someone you know needs support, have them call the hotline. It's 855-435-7693. Now I want to turn it over to my partner for today's MC, Kobe.
From Chicago to D.C. We will fight till we are free. And we need to be much louder than that. This entire march, if you do not lose your voice, you have not been doing enough. Because we need to make that criminal in the White House hear us. We need to make those terrorists. We need to make those criminals, those troops who are here to harass and arrest
You may get a little excited when you shop at Burlington.
Chicago Coalition Against the Trump Agenda. And we are a coalition that is as diverse and as powerful as this crowd that is in front of me today. We are a coalition is saying about our city. We cannot accept the divide and conquer rhetoric that calls our neighbors criminals, that calls our siblings illegal, that calls our cousins terrorists. We are very clear. Yo, who is the biggest criminal in this country? Who is the biggest terrorist in this country? The most illegal stuff in this country. And we are here united, fighting back against that. I want to give another shout out to my comrade Frank Chapman. Because this is somebody who has been fighting against the Trumps of this world for a very long time. This is someone who has seen the history of Jim Crow, the history of the international solidarity movement when it came to standing up against apartheid in South Africa. This is somebody who has seen the fight against apartheid and genocide in Palestine. And we have all seen the same. And we have all seen throughout history that when we fight, and we understand that solidarity is our shield. Right now, when there are troops coming here to attack our black and brown children, we have to fight. We have to stand up together and we have to fight, because we cannot hide our heads in the sand. We cannot ignore this situation. We cannot wait for them to come for someone else. We cannot wait for them to come for us before we start getting involved. We have to stand up and we have to fight back. And that is why we are fighting for more funding for education, for more funding for healthcare, for more funding for housing. And we know, based on our experience here in Chicago, based on the experience of other black-led cities in this country, that when you invest in people, that is how the city becomes more safe. When you invest in more and more police, when you invest in more and more prisons, in concentration camps like that alligator Alcatraz, when you invest in that, everything becomes less safe. So we are here to fight back for the safety of our people. So without any further ado, and y'all, I need y'all to make some noise for our first speaker of the day. From New Life Community Church, please make some noise for Pastor Francisco Paco.
My name is Paco, and I am a pastor in the immigrant community of Little Village in Chicago. one of you, on behalf of our community, thank you for standing with us. We sense your love and we sense your care for people who might be your neighbors nearby or your neighbors far away from you. Every single immigrant is a human. Every single immigrant has every single right to have their families stay together. And Jesus said, blessed are all those of you who are hungering and thirsting for justice. We are standing on these words right now because we are claiming together saying, we want justice. I like that. I like that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We want justice. We want justice. We want justice. We want justice. One last time. We want justice. Hey, I want to say that someone who is in the White House and is not here to protect every living person within this country is not worth being a leader. So today, again, I want to say thank you. In Spanish, we say, aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Una vez más, in Spanish, we say, we are here and we're not leaving. So ready? Una, dos, tres. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Un aplauso bien fuerte. Give a big applause. Ready for more? I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Brianna Champion from the Black Voter Project. I am so happy to be taking up space with you all today. So let's do a temperature check. What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? Ida B. Wells was a freedom fighter and she taught us how to fight. And we gon' fight all day and night until we get it right. What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? Just as we were when Officer Dante Servin murdered our beloved community member Rekia Boyd in 2012. Just as we were when Rahm Emanuel closed 50 of our public schools in 2013. On the freedom side, just as we were when we demanded that our city night give its police department 40% of its budget in 2015. And just as we were when we ousted the corrupt state's attorney, Anita Alvarez, for criminalizing our city's youth in 2016. These are only but a few movement moments that have grown me as an organizer and restored
The speakers at this event. Here's another shot here before they go on the march there. So we'll be keeping an eye for it on Live Now from Fox, and if there is any type of police activity involved with these protesters, we will bring it to you on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, we'll take a 2-minute break, then we'll take you out to New York City, where Bernie Sanders is speaking. In on Live Now.
Thank you. Thank you, Brooklyn College. What an honor. What an honor it is to be here with you today. Can we hear a round of applause for Luis? And a round of applause for incredible elected officials that we have here from the city, the state, the federal level who are here with us tonight. And for Brooklyn College. And when I sit next to Senator Sanders, I always have to ask, is labor in the house? Is PSC CUNY in the house? I cannot begin my remarks this evening without first acknowledging PSC CUNY and the incredible members that we have here. And the fact that no faculty member should be disciplined for supporting Palestinian human rights. And I want to thank PSC CUNY for standing alongside their rank and file. And it is an honor to be here alongside Senator Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders. And I just want to share what Bernie has meant to me. It was Bernie's campaign for the presidency in 2016 that gave me the language of democratic socialism to describe my politics. And it was Bernie's Queensbridge rally on October 19th, 2019. That was the first political event of my campaign for state assembly. Now, that was unbeknownst to Bernie and his team. We were canvassing the line to get into his rally. We were asking for $1, $5, $10, emails, whatever we could. And we did that, and we walked inside to this rally, and I remember the electrifying feeling we felt of a campaign reborn and a movement reborn alongside every single borough of this city. And when Bernie walked out to Back in Black by AC/DC, those who were there remember, we felt as if possibility was a fact of life. And his campaign continued to inspire so many of us. And as I ran for state assembly for the many months beyond that, we continued to look to him and his campaign and his vision.
Currently under attack right now. Regardless of what agency specifically is carrying out that attack, we're standing up and we're fighting back against it.
All right, that was Fox 32's Joni Lum once again speaking to protesters, and we talked to her a little bit earlier this evening, and we'll continue to showcase more of this march through the streets of downtown Chicago when we come back. We'll be back in just 2.
No!
When your severe asthma says you can't, Tespire says you can. Tespire is an add-on treatment for...
And as you can see, they are getting closer to the Trump International Tower in Chicago. So we will see just how close they can get to the building here. Let's continue to listen in.
Escucha, estamos en la lucha. No more silence, no more lies. No more silence, no more cries. We lift our people, we organize. 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 They bring terror, we bring light. They bring terror, we bring light. We are rising, we will fight. We are rising, we will fight.
From the schools, not the cars. Get the hell out of our backyard. From the schools, not the cars. Get the hell out of our backyard. From the schools, not the cars. Get the hell out of our backyard. Chicago! No troops on the ground, no ice in Chicago! No troops on the ground, no ice in Chicago!
They're probably going to go back down there. It's just so funny. You have little like tourists shopping and shit, and you're like, oh my god.
Chicago isn't Lincoln boots. No to Trump and no to troops. Chicago! I need to hear the energy. Fuck Trump!
Right, as you can see, everyone, getting a little bit closer to Trump International in downtown Chicago. And we just had to lower the audio there because some of the profanity was coming through a little bit more than we heard in the backgrounds there. All right, so you are taking a live look right now as protesters getting closer to Trump International. We'll just see how close they can get. Let's continue to listen in.
We are the people too. We want the fighting three. Kick the guard out now. One. We are the people too.
right, everyone. We'll keep an eye on Chicago as the protest continues throughout the streets of downtown. We'll be back in just 2 minutes.
Why, after housing, childcare is the leading cost that is pushing New Yorkers out of this city, pushing them out of this state. Now, there will be many who will say that an agenda that seeks to meet the needs of working people is too ambitious. Those were the same people who told us we could never have universal pre-K in New York City. Now, it is a fact.
Does play out here.
Sure. Well, that being the case, and whether or not there's continued examination that happens, but without conclusive autopsy results, prosecutors are going to have a difficult time proving the cause and manner of how the baby died. So, it sounds as though right now they're pursuing charges of concealing a birth and abuse of a corpse, things of that nature. Those are certainly much lower level felony charges than a homicide charge. If the prosecution were to seek to prove something higher up like homicide, the defense trial strategy would likely be to argue that the evidence is insufficient to prove any intent or culpability as far as the death of the child itself. So, you got to remember it's the prosecutor's burden to prove guilt. Laken doesn't have to prove she's innocent. She doesn't really have to prove anything.
And in a case like this, you kind of touched on it, but what types of evidence do investigators typically rely on, from medical records, witness statements? What will prosecutors actually need to prove?
I thought I knew what therapy was until I found the right therapist. And let me tell you, game changer. You see, for years, therapy felt like talking to a really smart best friend. Insightful? Yes. Helpful? Sure. Something was missing. I would leave sessions.
Well, those are two of the most critical forms of evidence, witness statements, including the statements made by Laken herself. And it does appear that she has given a statement, that she's admitted that she gave birth. It doesn't. It's unclear whether she's given any other details beyond that regarding the state of the child, if she believed the child was born alive or what have you. But again, the evidence that's going to be key here. Other witness statements, if any, the medical records, obviously, the autopsy results themselves, and a forensic examination of the crime scene, the closet and the blanket that the baby was found wrapped in. All of that is going to be critical as far as the state's evidence is concerned.
And when you are talking about a case like this, again, you kind of touched on it, but you're talking about a newborn and you have these inconclusive results there. What makes this case maybe challenging for investigators, but also for prosecutors?
Well, again, it leaves the door open for the defense to argue that the child died before birth, that it was stillborn, or that even if it died after birth, that death was accidental. So again, if the prosecution is seeking to prove that Laken was responsible for the death of the child without conclusive autopsy results, that's a pretty steep hill for them to climb.
And kind of going in reverse a little bit, can you explain some of the charges that she does face there?
Yeah. Well, again, I think they've already talked about some of the charges that they're currently are alleging, tampering with evidence. I think other charges, concealing the birth. I think that's also one that's been mentioned here. An abuse of a corpse could be another one. Again, these are low-level felony charges. They center on her actions after the death of the child. Whereas homicide, if the prosecution were to seek that, would require proving that the child was intentionally harmed after birth.
Kind of looking beyond the courtroom, so to speak, when you talk about women's health, does this story kind of lead into a story about that as well?
Yeah, I think so. This case highlights sensitive topics regarding women's health, especially mental health, and the mental health and of a young mother. This is a young college co-ed here, and the pressures that young mothers face. You can already see this in traditional media, certain articles out there already, as well as social media. There's lots of comments ranging from, what was she thinking to, don't rush to judgment. Maybe this was an accident. So this case certainly raises questions regarding social stigma and accountability.
And on that same note, prosecutors dealing with this case itself, but they also are getting that intense public reaction from folks out there all over social media, not just in the Lexington, Kentucky area, but honestly all over the country. So how do they balance the legal process with the emotional weight of this case and the public scrutiny?
Well, if they're doing their job properly and they're focused on seeking justice, which is what should be their mission, rather than just obtaining convictions, then they're going to have to separate the legal issues from the media hype. It's certainly easier said than done, especially in areas where there might be additional political pressure. If you've got a prosecutor who's coming up for re-election, and it's a kind of what we call a law and order part of the country, that's going to add additional pressure. No prosecutor wants to appear soft on crime. And with these inconclusive autopsy results, I'm not sure that many prosecutors are going to relish going after this young mother if the evidence that they have is inconclusive to establish the manner of death. So I think the key for the prosecution here is that they need to focus on the evidence and focus on making sure that due process is maintained, regardless of public pressure.
Dan Gerald, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. A very disturbing case here. We're going to wait to see the next results that come out and what happens with the investigation. Anything else you want to add here about any of this before I let you go?
Yeah, it's just, I'm curious about whether or not the autopsy is complete, whether they've come to that final determination, or whether at this point, because that's kind of what I'm hearing, at this point it's inconclusive. I think that, once that is fully determined, that's really going to play a big role in where the case goes from that point.
All right, Dan, thank you again for taking the time to join us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
All right, I want to bring into the conversation here Dr. Stephen Quay, the Hudson Institute Senior Fellow for Biotechnology and Artificial Intelligence. Doctor, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here. Really mean overall. Can you break it down for folks who are watching?
Sure. So there's a series of vaccines that children have between almost birth and about 10 to 11 years of age. They consist of 17 different shots to cover, about a dozen different diseases. They've been developed beginning in the 50s and going on for the last 20 years beyond that, but they're pretty standard. But I think probably to frame it for your listeners, your viewers, we have a situation where this experiment of not having mandates is being done, and it's the entire country of the United Kingdom. They offer the same vaccines to parents and doctors. They have literally the same uptake rates, but they're not mandated. They're simply recommended. And parents and doctors, in the privacy of their office, should make those decisions, in my opinion.
And of course, as we talk about the situation there in the UK, do we have any information overall about what we've seen there? Because as you mentioned, they don't have the mandate, they have the option to do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about some numbers here. So in the U.S., the average uptake nationwide is about 93 to 95% for this group of vaccines. In the U.K., it's 91 to 93. So in terms of uptake, I think there are exceptions. There are children who may have some very serious diseases where their immune system is compromised, or other kinds of very special situations where vaccines may not be necessary. Flip to the disease state. Both countries, U.S. and U.K., for example, had an outbreak of measles recently. But again, I want to go back to that beginning of the conversation, which was that the severity of all of these infectious diseases in terms of hospitalization and death has been reduced 90% before the first vaccine was ever introduced. So severity versus infection spreading are important distinctions in making a decision about getting vaccinated.
How do vaccinations typically help to manage outbreaks, the spread of that infectious disease?
Yeah, well, there's something called herd immunity, which is a concept where at a certain level, typically between 80 and 90%, depending on the infection, although some require much higher, there are not sufficiently unvaccinated people to support the spread of a disease. What you typically see when you hear about a pocket of a spread, it's like it's a county, it's a group of people. Maybe they have commonality like Amish or something where there's a large community where the vaccination rates may be well below 50%. You'll see spread there, but once it hits a community with 80 to 90%, it's greatly reduced. And so that's the medical principle we're trying to generate, is this concept of herd immunity.
When we talk about the medical professionals who are considering all of this here, when they're evaluating whether mandates are necessary or not, how do they even go about doing that? Do we know?
You know, I'm not as familiar with how mandates are put in place. I'm a very strong component of the physician-patient relationship as being a pretty sacred kind of relationship, because, you can make standards for entire states or nations, but when you have a patient in front of you and you're looking at their situation, the family members, maybe they have a family member who shouldn't be exposed to their childhood disease, you have to take all of that into consideration. So I really like the ability of educated people to do the right thing for their children in consultation with their healthcare provider.
What should parents right now who are listening to this or hearing about it elsewhere, what advice do you want to give them? What do you want to make sure that they are aware of?
Yeah, so these 17 shots that comprise of vaccinations against about 12 diseases are highly effective in stopping both the spread of the disease, but also the severity if you get it. And so that's kind of the foundation. I mean, all of my children are vaccinated. I guess if that's a sign of what my opinions are. But again, if you have a special circumstance with a child, a special circumstance in your family, or certain, I think there are people who have, how do I say it? There are religious, objection issues with, for example, the manufacture of some of these vaccines. All of this should be taken into account.
Do you think, just based on what we've seen here, that other states are going to follow suit? Florida would be the first state there to eliminate the vaccine mandate. Should we expect that other states might do the same?
Well, I think, since COVID and the public health decisions that were made around it, in retrospect, we're seeing maybe a lot of mistakes that were made. I think in reestablishing trust, we should be involved with deep education to people so they can make their own decisions, but then we should remove, sort of government's heavy hand in this situation. Again, with the confidence that when it was done without mandates, you can go to school in the UK with any relationship to vaccines that you want. You get about the same level of vaccination voluntarily with education and good parenting.
All right. Dr. Stephen Quay there, Hudson Institute Senior Fellow for Biotech and Artificial Intelligence. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here to discuss this. Anything we missed, anything you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
No, I just think people should settle down, if that's the word to suit it, not get too excited about this. Without mandates, we'll be very much like the UK, which has the same level of infections, the same level of childhood hospitalizations and the like. So not really an issue from a public health or medical point of view.
And we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here to discuss it. Thank you again, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Time to join us here.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And first off, I did want to ask you, changing the name back to the Department of War, what kind of message does that send to U.S. allies and also U.S. adversaries?
Well, along with you, I was watching the president's remarks, and what a great marketeer he is. I think one of the best in our generation. But this currently is a rebranding and remarketing effort. Despite that, because it doesn't have it has to be ratified by Congress. It was created by Congress, the Department of Defense, and so it's currently unofficial, the Department of War. Doesn't mean he won't get it. I think there's a good chance he's going to get it changed to the Department of War. But the question you asked, what does it mean? It means more than just a name. What's in a name? When you're talking about war and defense, it signals intent. And the intent is of a more aggressive United States. Our adversaries and allies will probably look at it differently. Our adversaries, and I'm going to look at our adversaries as the axis of upheaval, as some have called it, which is China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. They already know quite a bit about us. I'm with the president in that we have the largest military in the world. Our budget is $1 trillion. That's our war budget, which is, it's 3 times China's. So yes, we are the preeminent military power. They know that. They have very good spies, very good intelligence. They don't need to be convinced. It's our allies that are looking at us a little bit, they're a little concerned because they want to know what's going on with the United States, what's going to be happening with diplomacy, etc.
And I did want to ask you, why did the U.S. change it from the Department of War to the Department of Defense there in the first place?
Well, that was President Truman, and it was in 1949, I believe. It had been the Department of War prior, as the president mentioned. The difference is with the times that President Truman was living in. Russia was developing a nuclear weapon and was going to be, if it hadn't already, was going to be deploying it and testing it within a week or 2 of that announcement. And China was going to be announcing, Mao was going to be announcing the People's Republic of China. So there was a lot of unrest, a lot of fear. And what he was striving for was deterrence, nuclear deterrence. And so it was the Department of Defense. He consolidated the 3 arms of the military under civilian leadership. And some have said that the most significant part of the Cold War was that it remained a cold war and never got heated. And that was his goal.
What do you think the American people think of this overall? What have you seen as far as reaction when you talk about changing from defense to kind of focusing it on war?
Okay. I don't think there's much of a reaction from the American people currently. I think it's going to be debated in Congress, which raises a whole bunch of questions such as history, messaging, symbolism, ally strategy. So this will continue in the talk houses and in the coffee houses in Congress. But I'm not sure that the people really care. What they care about is the economy, what they're buying at the stores, etc. And if he can bring that kind of stability back, I think he's winning.
As far as Congress goes, I wanted to get your take on this, and I'm not sure if you can speak to this necessarily, but is this going to be a bipartisan situation when you talk about approval, where you have Republicans saying, yes, we're going to change it, and Democrats saying, no, I'm not going to vote for that?
Again, I don't really know. I don't think there's been any polling. I suspect it will be along party lines, but I'm not sure. I don't think this is a major issue currently for the American people. As I said, the economy is the number one issue, and that's what they're concerned about. We're not in a war currently. We're not in a major war. Americans have not been enlisted to join an army. So it's on the back burner for most Americans.
My last question here before I let you go. Is there any significance to the timing overall of this name change? This was, I do want to mention, the 200th executive order that was signed by President Trump since he entered office for the second time there back in January. Any significance on the timing overall?
I think it's very significant. That's a very good question. Just last week, we had the goose-stepping Chinese military parade, and they displayed their weapons, which is ICBMs and all the other weapons that they wanted the world to see will be deployed in a Taiwanese invasion. They wanted the U.S. to see it. They know what the U.S.'s military might is. They know it better than our allies do. However, this, I think, is a response saying that the U.S. is not going to be standing on the sidelines, but we will intervene. We are the Department of War, not the Department of Defense. So I do think that there is some symbolism and timing associated with this announcement.
Usha Haley, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and helping to break it all down. Anything we missed? Anything you want to add here before I let you go?
No, as I said, I think this is a rebranding effort so far, but it is also messaging, and it's telling the world what our intent is going to be. So it is significant. Yeah.
All right, Usha, thank you again for taking the time to join us on this Saturday. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I was really surprised because it really is very extreme. And I was also very deeply troubled because it's not only about individual health. It's about the health of the community and the health of the health system as well, that have to take care of people who get sick unnecessarily.
And so when we're talking about some of these vaccine mandates, can you sort of explain to us first off how this comes about initially? How long have vaccines been a cornerstone of public health, especially as it pertains to there in the classroom? When I'm first thinking about some of those childhood diseases, it takes me back maybe about 60 to 80 years ago to the polio epidemic, or talking about even something as serious as smallpox. Can you sort of speak on that?
Yeah, so vaccines for children's health and health in the community in general have been around for decades, actually. And like you said, Christina, there was polio, there was measles, and a whole host of other immunizations that we rely on right now. Take measles, for example. It wasn't very long ago when we had more than 500 kids die every year, but tens of thousands go to the hospital. For polio, like you mentioned, we're not only talking about deaths, but lifelong disability. So it is very significant to really think about not having this as a mandate for kids going to school, because we think about immunizations not only in protecting the individual, but do remember that concept of herd immunity. If enough people in the community get immunized, if enough people in the school get immunized, that protects kids whose immune system can't really respond to vaccines, or people who come from other places who may not be as well protected. So, for many reasons, we worry about this move. We not only worry about Florida, but we worry about states like Texas, who may look at Florida's example and become emboldened to take similar measures.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because typically as these sort of things come, they say that, and even in the articles that are being written about this, Florida seeks to become the first state. This is not necessarily going to start and end here. I do want to put up what we've heard there from the Surgeon General. Putting this up on the screen, he made this remark on X, saying Florida values medical freedom, informed consent, and parental choice. Thank you, Governor DeSantis, for making it all possible. I have to say, Dr. Chen Hong, there is that conversation out there about medical freedom as well as informed consent. Can you sort of speak to maybe where the origins of this are occurring, but maybe how it can be a more nuanced conversation?
Yes, definitely. It is more complicated than it seems. And of course, everybody has choice to make informed choices around medical care. But this is about the health care of the community. And even before the pandemic, we've seen the anti-vax movement, become bigger and bigger and a larger part of our national discourse. But what happened is during the pandemic, because of public health interventions, particularly early on when we were socially distancing and sheltering in place, people became very aware of losing so many freedoms that we had. And I think that's part of it as well. I think the anti-vax movement or anti-vax sentiment started before, but it got really jump-started or catalyzed by all the losses we had during the pandemic, not only in public health and individual freedom, but losses in friends and our way of life and the things that we took for granted. So until we take stock of that, I think all of this is really snowballed because of that.
And I'm putting up some video as well that we have from this news conference where it all happened with the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, really being at the center of this conversation and some of the political moves he's wanted to make there in the state of Florida. I have to ask you, how long has the medical community and the political agenda been lined up? Is this something relatively new that we're seeing, or is this something that has existed in this conversation for some time here in our country?
I think there's always been political aspects of health when you think about global health and, how we deliver health, which is really intertwined very close with politics. For example, with HIV prevention, we know that giving a shot or even contraception, giving people power can really be a big factor in improving their individual health, giving them political power. So it's always been intertwined. But again, what happened recently has become so divisive. Even during the pandemic, I remember in the beginning, everyone was so aligned, everyone was so united. Healthcare workers were being celebrated because we were putting lives on stake to take care of people when we didn't know much about it. But as the pandemic progressed and as people really lost so much during those early years, it became very divergent between, as people saw less dying, less suffering, there was a difference between, was that really necessary? And it became very political. And if you look at what's happening now with Florida versus California, Oregon, Washington, and the 8 East Coast states, that's really a case in point of a country coming apart when it really has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with people's health and easing suffering in the community.
And lastly, before I let you go here, we were just looking at some of those live images of the White House as well. The conversation has also gone national at this point. Of course, talking about RFK Jr., he testified in front of Congress earlier this week, speaking on some of the issues concerning vaccinations, particularly the COVID-19 pandemic and how you've been speaking about it and how he feels and others maybe in the Trump administration see how the pandemic was handled here in our country. When we're taking a look overall at what the sentiment is as it pertains to infectious diseases, vaccines here in the country, and the changes recently made at the CDC. Do you feel as though things are going to move in a solid direction, or what can folks sort of look out for when it pertains to their own personal health as these changes could possibly be made on the national level as well?
I think what everybody's worried about, not because people won't be able to get information, because I think professional organizations and some states would give the unbiased scientific information, but it's really the ability to have it paid for and covered. Because if the CDC and the CDC advisors, which have been changed now, make different decisions, that will affect people's ability to have it covered. And that's really troublesome to me, and a really bad move. So, I think what people should do is really try to stay up to date on vaccines, stay hopeful, talk to your Congress person or your lawmaker. And at the end of the day, people still trust their clinicians from recent studies and recent data. So reach out to your doctor, reach out to your nurse practitioner, to your nurse, and have those conversations with them.
All right. And so it's a conversation that's certainly going to continue not only there in Florida, but all around the nation. And as always, we appreciate Dr. Peter Chin Hong, our infectious disease expert, for taking the time to talk to us about this major change in policy that's going to be happening there in the state of Florida. We appreciate your time as always.
Thanks so much, Christina.
All right, so we did want to get that story in for you here on Live Now from Fox. And if you missed it, putting this back up on the screen for just a moment there. That's, again, the tweet that was put out by Joseph Ladapo. He's also, of course, the Florida Surgeon General, saying there that Florida values medical freedom, informed consent, and parental choice. Thank you, Governor Ron DeSantis, for making it possible. This all stems as Florida now seeks to become the first state here in the United States to eliminate vaccine mandates, a longtime cornerstone of public health and policy here in the U.S.
Around the world.
Mr. President, we haven't won a major war since, and that's not to disparage our warfighters, whether it's the Korean War, the Vietnam War, or our generation of Iraq and Afghanistan. That's to recognize
that
dealers and their cargo in the Caribbean. Navy ships have moved into the area, and now F-35 fighter jets are being moved to Puerto Rico. President Trump calls the smuggling of dangerous drugs into the U.S. an imminent threat.
I just think it's strong. We're strong on drugs. We don't want drugs killing our people.
When asked if Congress has to sign off on the name change, President Trump said he's sure they will go along with it if it's needed. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
Connor, thanks so much. We want to continue to talk about this. Let's bring in our next guest, a friend of the program. This is Hal Kempfer, national security analyst. Hal, always great to have you on here. And what a moment now, DOD, Department of War.
Mike, I'm going to have to completely change my entire vocabulary. You know, sec def becomes sec war. You know, the Dow of what used to be DOD, shall we say, it's all going to have to change. It's really interesting, though. You know, I study a little bit of history, shall we say, and you go back and yes, it was the Department of War all the way through World War II, and then after World War II, and I think there was some of that thought at the time of, you know, that was maybe not the war. World War I was a war to end all wars. Obviously, that didn't happen. But World War II, the thought was, well, we won't have something like that again. So they changed it to Defense Department. All the lexicon changed. Interestingly, the U.S. led the world. I mean, we were the superpower after World War II. And you found all the NATO countries, they're called MODs, Ministry of Defense, not Ministries of War. And the idea was that we're on the defense. We're not, you know, we're not going to go out there and do offensive wars anymore. That we're just going to defend our own sovereign territories and, you know, defend NATO territory and things like that. And that was part of the thinking. Obviously, this is a rebranding. It's very symbolic. It really doesn't do anything to change what is the Department of Defense to the Department of War. And of course, I'd also bring up, though, DOD, Department of Defense, is in a lot of congressional legislation. So you're going to have congressional action to formally change the name. I mean, they can do some cosmetology, which is kind of what they did with taking out one sign, put up another sign, things like that. But that doesn't really change it because it still is codified under U.S. code as the Department of Defense. And that's a big change.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I mean, if it really would go through Congress, I mean, just think about everything that would change as far as all the different, you know, statues and different naming artifacts that they have, not only in Washington, but really across the country.
Oh, I have to tell you, I've got stuff just here at home. I've got piles of stuff that has Department of Defense all over it. You know, all the, you know, field manuals and stuff I've gotten over the years. I just want to mention all unclassified. All right. This is just, you know, but just, you know, it's just, there's a ton of stuff that out there has Department of Defense on it. And they would have to go through and meticulously change every order, every instruction, everything that's out there. And they'd have to switch the name over. And it's big. In fact, I think in many ways, this is bigger than when they started the Department of Homeland Security. You know, on that one, they took a bunch of different separate agencies and stuck it under one roof. So you didn't have to change everything. You had to add something. In this case, you'd have to change everything. And it's been around for a long time. It's been around since the 1940s. So this is not something new. I mean, this is something that's been kind of, you know, established for a very long time. And then the question is, are our allies overseas in NATO and elsewhere, you know, in the West Pacific, are they going to look at the semantics of what they call their ministries of defense? Are they going to start changing the names of those things? That's a question I kind of have, and I'm wondering if that's going to be the case. And there is something to be said for it, though. When you're called the Department of War, everyone remembers why you're there, which is you're there to fight wars. And that is really at the core, you know, look, there's shockingly a lot of politics in Washington. But, you know, when Secretary Hegseth gets out there and says, you know, we're war fighters and we have to have a warrior ethos, this is not a new concept. I would hear the same thing back in the 80s. I hear the same thing in the 90s, that we need to be, you know, more warfighter focused, the warfighter, you know, our whole purpose, everybody in what was then called the Department of Defense, everybody was focused on the warfighter, and that's our whole purpose for being. And so it's not a new concept, but this is kind of taking all that stuff over the last few decades. And I think it's also, we're feeling the reverberations. I mean, it's so new that a lot of us don't realize this, but I came into the military after Vietnam, and I certainly felt the pain, if you will, that was in the military throughout, particularly the Marine Corps, of the Vietnam experience. And there were some great leaders, some I would call mentors that had been through Vietnam. They went through that period. They saw what it did to our service, how it hollowed out the service in the late 70s, and they were dedicated to rebuilding. Not just the Marine Corps, but all the services felt this way. We had to rebuild after what we've just gone through. I think we're starting to feel the reverberations of the war on terror, the reverberations of Iraq, the reverberations of Afghanistan. And I think Pete Hegseth kind of, encapsulates that in many ways. Some of these thoughts of, we want to be more focused on this big war mission, and we don't want to go out there and do what we just did. I mean, our departure from Afghanistan was certainly not the desired end state, if you will, from when we went in there. And so he wants to make sure that we go back to that, maybe it's a little optimistic, but the idea of when we got into wars, we won wars. And, if you look at World War II, World War I, Spanish-American War, Civil War, it wasn't called the Department of War back then, but the Revolutionary War, all right? The Mexican-American War, all right? We tended to fare fairly well in those wars. I don't think it was because somebody wrote war on the wall, but I think there is a mindset. And war, as former Secretary of Defense Mattis, Jim Mattis, my old boss, used to say, the most important battle space is the 6 inches between your ears.
Yeah.
And it's and if you can conquer that, you can conquer just about anything.
Yeah, that's true. And lastly on this topic, Hal, I want to ask you just, it doesn't seem like it would be fully cemented with this administration because of everything that Congress would have to do. But just say another Republican gets in after President Trump. Is it more likely than we could see the Department of War stay?
I think it would be if President Trump is succeeded by another Republican, it is more likely than not that the Department of War thing will stick. If President Trump is not succeeded by a Republican, I'd say it's more likely that it might revert back to Department of Defense. And certainly there is precedence for reversion of names and stuff back after another party takes over. So I think that's very possible. Now as you know, I have done a lot of work with the Homeland Security world, right? I was never a big fan of the word Homeland Security. It just sounded a little Orwellian to me. I always felt they should come up with another term like public safety or something. But they always kept that phrase in there. So who knows? If we're going to start changing names, maybe we'll go look at DHS next and come up with a better name for that. So
yeah, when that name first came out, there was a lot of pushback on Homeland Security.
It does sound kind of odd. It sounds like something out of 1984. It's or one could say it was kind of a throwback. The Home Guard, if you will. Like in Britain with the Home Secretary. I always find that an interesting term. And the idea of fighting for the homeland. I mean, it kind of makes sense. But when you looked at, and I was there, and I saw all this thing where they took all these different agencies and they tucked them under DHS, and they tucked things into various parts of DHS that later they go, wow, that didn't make sense. But we all had to see how that didn't make sense for them to kind of break it out like they had before. It was a painful evolution in many ways. I imagine that this will be a little more seamless in terms of what happens, but I'm very curious. I heard that a few congressmen actually have pushed legislation in to codify this name change. And I'm curious how fast that's going to move through Congress. And who knows if it actually gets put into law, passed by, obviously the president would sign it, but if it gets put into law, then it's going to make it a lot harder for the next president to change it back.
Yeah, so true. All right, I want to switch gears here, Hal, and talk about another big story. This coming from Fox News' Jennifer Griffin reporting that the Pentagon is deploying 10 F-35 stealth fighter jets to Puerto Rico for counter-narcotics tasking in the Caribbean. A source familiar confirms to Fox News per Lucas Tomlinson. And I want to play out his report, and then we'll talk about it on the back end. Hal.
Okay. If they do put us in a dangerous position, they'll be shut down.
The Pentagon called the flyover of armed Venezuelan F-16s over the USS Jason Dunham highly provocative. The flyover took place 2 days after U.S. forces launched a strike on a Venezuelan drug boat in the Caribbean. President Trump said all 11 members of the Tren de Aragua gang on board were killed. The State Department declared the group a foreign terrorist organization in February. A Republican member of the Senate Armed Services Committee called the strike justified.
The boat had been warned to stop. They chose not to. They were clearly running drugs. We had been tracking it since it left Venezuela.
Many Democrats called the strike a violation of international law.
They think they can get away with this. God knows what they are going to do next. So that's what we're looking to right now, and there is reason to believe that this was not a legal action.
President Trump's defense secretary says the actions are justified after 400,000 Americans died from drug overdoses during the Biden administration.
A foreign terrorist organization poisoning your people with drugs coming from a drug cartel is no different than Al-Qaeda.
At the height of the Obama administration, the U.S. military carried out drone strikes in 7 different countries: Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Libya, Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. Over 500 in all, killing an estimated 3,500 people, including hundreds of civilians. President Trump also made it official, changing the name of the Department of Defense.
We're going Department of War.
This marks the second time in U.S. history the Department of War nomenclature has been used to describe the cabinet that oversees the U.S. military. The first time was back in 1789. Congress still needs to approve the name change. At the White House, Lucas Tomlinson, Fox News.
And Lucas continues to report there, saying President Trump warns Venezuela that if any more fighter jets threaten U.S. warships in the Caribbean, they will be shot down. Let's bring in back Hal Kempfer to react to this news. And President Trump and administration really going hard on these narco-terrorists.
Well, very much so, and also going hard on, you can call Venezuela a narco state. It has been called that many times. And certainly President Trump and others made it clear that Maduro was tied to the boat that was actually hit with our U.S. forces, that was destroyed as it was fleeing, as it wouldn't stop. And so we designated Tren de Aragua and a number of other cartels as terrorist groups. We call them narco terrorists. So as a terrorist group, they fall under a different body of law. In fact, under international law, they're treated differently than they would if they were just a transnational criminal organization. So it does open up some other use of force options. The rules of engagement shift when confronting a terrorist that's fleeing, and you have a different set of parameters by what you believe they might do. And we've heard all those articulated certainly by Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, the president himself have all said the same thing. Now, the 10 F-35s. Okay, what we have down there is about 7 warships sitting off in that area of the world. By the way, it's not just narcotics down there. If you go next door to Guyana, they have this massive offshore oil capability that they're developing, which is going to transform the economy of Guyana. But it's also one that Venezuela has made threats that they're going to invade and take over actually most of the territory at Guyana, not so much because they want the land, they want the exclusive economic zone to take over the oil field out there. So we're making a pretty strong statement to Venezuela on many different levels, which is don't do things, especially at sea, which you may regret. Now, there is 7 warships down there. Part of that's what's called an amphibious ready group. An amphibious ready group has a Marine Expeditionary Unit. I believe it's the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Norfolk is down there. They have about 22 Marines and sailors total. If you put it with the amphibious ready group and the MEU, it's about 4,500. But the MEU itself has about 2,200 Marines and sailors, and they have a composite squadron on board. They have a battalion of Marines as the ground combat element. They have a logistics element, a command element with them as well. However, the Marines, because we need that VSTOL capability, that vertical short takeoff and landing capability, we fly the F-35Bs. Very capable aircraft. It is the F-35 series, but there are compromises. There are certain things in order to get VSTOL, they had to kind of make some trade-offs, if you will. So it's not necessarily the air superiority fighter that you might want, say, with an F-35A, which the Air Force flies, or an F-35C that the Navy flies. I don't know, and I cannot find out. I looked everywhere what type of F-35s are in Puerto Rico. All I know is it says F-35s. I'm assuming they're an Air National Guard base. They could very well be Air Force, although they could be Navy. But they are not vertical short takeoff and landing. They take off and land like every other plane, on a runway and stuff. But because they do that, they can carry stuff that an F-35B couldn't. Let me just put it this way. If you're looking to confront an F-16 in the air, you would probably want either an A or a C variant versus the B variant that the Marines fly. Now, keep in mind, I'm not biased. I'll say the Marines are far better pilots, far better looking pilots, as we know. And of course, superior to all the pilots in the world in every other way. However, their aircraft, if you want to do air-to-air fighting, the A and the C variants are a little bit better for what you want to do there. So I think that's what we put out there. And they have that stealth capability. So if the F-16s that the Venezuelans bought in the 80s come out there and mess with our warships again, they could look to the left or look to the right and suddenly find out that they are right next to F-35s. They're ready to shoot them out of the sky. And I think that will be a very strong message. It also, if you look at the Caribbean, there are certain gaps. There's like 4 major channels that the maritime smugglers go through. This gives us an ability to react in a very decisive manner to those 4 channels with some overwhelming firepower, if you want to put it that way, very quickly. It's an F-35, so it's going to get out there as fast as anything can get out there. So if we want to do more maritime interdictions, we can do that. Also keep in mind that they fly drugs as well. So it gives us the capability to do air interdictions. And some of this is overcoming the fact that after the Cold War was done, after the U.S. pulled out of Panama, U.S. Southern Command moved into Florida versus being headquartered down in Panama. All of our bases in Panama closed. We don't have as robust a basing presence in the Caribbean or Latin America, Central, South America, certainly Central America, as we had before. So putting the F-35s in Puerto Rico, probably not an optimal location for them, but a heck of a lot better than F-35, say, flying out of Florida or something like that. And that's why they're down there. And I imagine, I didn't see anything on this, I would be surprised if we didn't move some other aviation assets out there to support them, like tanker support for in-flight refueling, and probably some command and control aircraft to like AWACS or something that could provide some support or something like that. Not necessarily AWACS per se, but something like that.
Yeah, great insight, Hal. And another question I have is, all right, Maduro has a $50 million bounty on his head. When do you think someone's going to really take advantage of that?
As soon as they can. I'm sure there's folks out there, not just in Venezuela, but somewhere in that area, going $50 million to go a long way. Keep in mind, Maduro has a very extensive personal security setup. He knows that a lot of people like to take him out, and he's probably more concerned about his military than anything else. He's had to do some rather extraordinary things to essentially pay off the military to make sure that they don't try to overthrow him in a coup. And so he keeps a very close eye on his security forces across the board. Obviously he's concerned because, there was that, what he says was a U.S.-backed coup attempt, but there was some Americans that went down there who worked with some Venezuelans, who were obviously trying to foment a change of regime, shall we say. And some Americans ended up in prison because of that. I think they've been returned, as I recall, but he's very concerned about that, and he knows he's got that. But we put big dollars on top of other heads before, and it doesn't necessarily turn into a situation where they arrive somewhere to be tried or they're extradited or whatever. And so, it's I'm not saying it's completely symbolic, but it has a lot of symbolism, doesn't necessarily produce the results we want in the time we want it.
How it gets, what we need is it doesn't get serious until you have a deck of cards after you. Once you have your name on the deck of cards or your face, I think it's ready.
I think you're right, and what a deal, so to speak. All right, but and I've been to a couple things where we had decks of cards, and the deck of cards, I should mention.
In Washington on Monday, those reports are wrong. I'm not. I'll be moving throughout this city in the 5 boroughs that made me mayor in the first place. I'm running for re-election, and I'm going to tell New Yorkers every day why I believe I should be the mayor of the city of New York in 2026. And yes, I hear the polls, I hear the comments, I hear the pundits, but those are the same polls that stated 8 weeks out that Andrew Cuomo was up by 36 points. And even his poll had him up by 10 points. Those are the same polls that stated he was going to walk into becoming the mayor of the city of New York, who he believes is a consolation prize because he made the determination to step down. I'm running, and I'm going to beat Mamdani, and I'm going to continue the success that this city has witnessed. And yes, there's many challenges. And yes, I hear it over and over again. It's almost Groundhog Day, folks. How many times have I been told throughout this journey to step aside, to surrender, to give up, to give in? That's the same thing we tell everyday New Yorkers. Everyday New Yorkers are not giving up, are not giving in, are not surrendering. And so the mayor is not going to do that. The voters will determine who's the next mayor of this city. And I will respect the outcome from the voters. I love this city, and I gave this city my all, and I'm going to continue to give them my all every day. And New Yorkers, you'll decide. Do you want a working class mayor that's like you, one who struggled like you, one who lived in poverty like you, one who wondered where your next meal will come from like you? Or do you want 2 individuals who had it all and decided that the elitists would run this city and not a working class mayor? That's the decision.
What are you going to do?
It's very rare that he tips his hand. He's very subdued. He's very reserved. He's been doing this a long time, so he makes sure he doesn't tip his hand one way or another. So, for all intents and purposes, I can't see him kind of tipping his hand. But what I do know is, I think, his time's limited, right? He's out in May. That's only 8 months away, so he's only around for a little bit. So this is his chance to really cement his legacy. And I know people don't really bow to pressure and things like that, but he's got a lot of pressure on him to maybe do some of the right things, start to cut a few times, and really pass the economy off to somebody else in really strong hands.
And now, Justice, I want you to hold on here. I want to play out just some sound from President Trump earlier today talking about these jobs numbers. Let's listen in.
This morning that we've lost 78,000 manufacturing jobs this year. How do you explain it?
Well, one thing we have is, we have the interest rates are too high. That was, a matter of the Fed. But the other thing is so many different elements aren't included yet. And one of the things we've learned that the hard way, watching over the last few months, are the corrections that people have been making. They'll say you're losing jobs, and then they'll say, by the way, we have a correction a month later of, 100,000 jobs are missing. They actually had a correction once of 850,000 jobs. But I'll let Kevin just speak about that a little bit, because I heard him speaking about it this morning. I thought he did very well. Please.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, I think that if you look at the indicators, there's capital spending boom, industrial production at an all-time high. The Atlanta Fed says GDP now is north of 3%. And so all the indicators are saying that things are really strong. And what we've also seen is that Goldman Sachs put out a study yesterday that said that the August number tends to be really messed up because of seasonal adjustment things, and they tend to be revised way up. And so I think if they were revised up, which has happened on average over the last 15 years by about 60,000, then everything else would make sense. But right now we're puzzled about the BLS numbers and looking forward for new leadership there to make it so that the numbers are more reliable.
And again, we're building, they've started building all of these factories and plants, including car factories. Car factories are coming back. We lost more than 50% of our car production over the years. And I think we're going to get all of it back. It's coming back in really rapidly. We're building a lot of car plants. Indiana, places that you don't think of it so much, are taken, but also Detroit, lots of places it's coming in where I think we're going to get everything. We've lost it over a period of 40 years, and I think we're going to get it all back in a very short period of time.
All right, let's bring back in Justice here. So we just listened to there, President Trump making those remarks. I want to get your take on where we're at right now in the tariff situation. Ultimately, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. And what is your thinkings, and how could this play in with the market?
Yeah, and this is something I'm very acutely aware of. I'm very actively involved in the sense that I'm my firm is an America First investor. So there's not many people out there that understand the tariffs and the nuances of the economy better than myself and my firm, because we put our money where our mouth is. And so, look, there was bound to be some sort of dispute. There's bound to be appeals. The Republican Party does, control the Supreme Court 5-4 for whatever that's worth. We'll see how that shakes out in the Supreme Court. But what I do think is whether it's the Supreme Court or different avenues, I think this is a cornerstone, a staple of the administration. I think everybody that was rejecting the tariffs looks quite foolish now. Everybody said the sky is falling. It's clearly not falling. Inflation's 2%. As President Trump alluded to, there's $15 to $20 trillion of economic boom and activity coming into the country. So the tariffs are unequivocally working. We're getting hundreds of billions of dollars of tax revenue showing up every month. So why bother mess with that? And so we'll see how that works through. But I assure you, one form or fashion, these will be here to stay, and America will be better off for it.
And how do you think the Trump administration is doing 2.0 versus the first administration and before COVID, of course, because that was a black swan event? What's your take on that?
He had the economy booming, right? I'm an economics guy. I understand the economy. I'm an investor. Trump 2016 to 2020, before COVID, he had the market and the economy absolutely booming, which was very impressive. I think he did a fantastic job. Trump 2.0, I think he's actually surrounded himself with a lot better, some would argue smarter folks, apolitical folks. He's got a kind of a tech background, army around him. He's doing some really, really interesting things. And so people forget we're only 6 or 8 months into this administration. The setup is for next year. I think next year is going to be the year that you really pour the gas on this thing. I think the GDP is going to skyrocket. I think we're going to be well into the 3s. I think the interest rates are coming down with Powell's replacement, and it's going to be the golden era. The setup is absolutely there. We just have to execute.
Yeah, and the setup is there for America's 250th birthday. So what a moment that could be if everything is going the way that the economy wants to be. So we appreciate it as well, Justice. Thanks so much for being with us on Live Now from Fox. You have a great weekend.
Amen. God bless, Mike.
Take care. All right, everyone. Live look right now at the White House. We want to keep you there. From earlier today, I want to play out a portion of Kevin Hassett, the director of National Economic Council, speaking. Let's listen.
He said that the real numbers will come
President Trump knows that we're super optimistic about the future of the jobs numbers because we're seeing a massive blowout in capital spending and new factory construction, something that happened because of the tax reforms that we had. So people are allowed to expense factories. Capital spending is growing at a rate. It was about 8% over the first half of the year. It's accelerating in the third quarter, which is why GDP now has the third quarter at about 3%. And so, like, all the indicators that we're seeing are that inflation is low and economic growth is solid. Income growth solid as well. So that the only part of the data that's disappointing is that the jobs numbers have been a little bit lower over the last 3 or 4 months. But again, Goldman Sachs had a report out yesterday that said that the seasonals of the summer are kind of unusual, and that in August, typically the advanced number is about 60 to 70,000 lower than the final number ends up being.
On Stephen Myron, what's the White House's justification if he is able to stay on at the CPA while also
That's a matter between Steve and the president.
But do you think that there could be a conflict of interest there if you allow?
Steve's a very honorable guy, and I think that he'll do the job well if he's confirmed.
Kevin, if somebody is on leave from the CEA, how often, how disconnected are they from the White House or connected to the White House while they're on leave typically?
I don't recall anyone being on leave from the CEA, so but I'm sure that Steve will respect his job as an independent Fed governor if he gets the job.
Tariffs, President Trump last night told the tech execs that the semiconductor tariffs are coming shortly. Do you have any update on the timeline? Are we talking about weeks, months?
Yeah, that 232 investigation has been moving forward. I think that there'll be something to bring to the president within a few weeks, maybe even sooner than that, and then the president will judge on next steps.
And would the companies get reprieves just for the chips or for the...
I'm sorry, could you say it again? I didn't hear you.
Would the companies that invest in the U.S. get reprieve just on the downstream products, the consumer electronics?
That's a work in progress for the 232.
India continues to import large amounts of crude even now after the sanctions were imposed. What are the trade negotiations looking like in the near future? Is there any momentum to grow stronger on this?
I think that the trade team and the president are disappointed that India continues to fund Russia's Ukraine war, and hopefully it's a diplomatic issue that it will have positive developments soon. I'll let this guy, but I promise that I'll let everyone have a shot. Okay. No, what I'm saying is that if you get the typical revision for August, which is about 60,000, then the jobs number would be about consistent with the other indicators that we're seeing. This is a lower number than seems like you would normally get given how strong. So for again, GDP now is saying that economic growth is about 3%. It's a pretty good estimate given all the real-time data of where we are. And normally with a 3% growth, you would be talking, 100,000 jobs or something. And so the jobs number is an anomaly. And so the question is, when we look at the final numbers, do we expect that the revision will be more consistent with the rest of the data? That's usually what happens. Not concerned. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the benchmark revision is. But again, it highlights the fact that we've got to do a lot better job of collecting and fixing and seasonally adjusting the data because the revisions have been so huge. And if you think about it, the previous revisions, which knocked about 1 million jobs off of the jobs rolls, could have had a big impact on policy, both in Congress and the Federal Reserve. And so it's just not an acceptable thing that the jobs numbers are so unreliable that they're being revised all the heck over the place. A completely different story if we have 1 million fewer jobs, as happened the last time that there was a revision. And so that's one reason why President Trump thinks we need a new set of eyes over there at BLS to fix this problem. And
Kevin, the president wrote that we've lost India and Russia to China. What does that say about our relationship with these countries?
Well, we're certainly hoping that it improves. So. I think that the Fed will certainly want to consider, what moves it would make. And I would imagine that when you set an agenda at the Fed, the chairman of the Fed sets the agenda, then they have options that they all consider and discuss. And I would guess that they'll be discussing the main market expectation is 25 basis points. But I would guess that there would be an expectation, a discussion of a higher cut. But I wouldn't expect it to happen. It's because the inflation numbers have come way, way down. It's on average about 1.9% since Trump took office. Anybody else?
Mr. Hassett,
oh,
is
yeah.
there any connection between the jobs reports and immigration activity or deportation activity?
Yeah, there is, so all the job creation in the U.S. has come from native-born workers, whereas in the Biden administration, it would be like maybe about half was foreign-born. And so if the sort of supply of new illegal immigrants goes to zero, as it has, then there won't be non-native-born workers taking a whole bunch of jobs from native-born workers. And so that is an issue, that the supply of new labor has certainly gone down a lot because of the closed border. Yeah. I don't have a comment on the Fed issue. Thanks. The unemployment rates have ticked up a little bit, but right now we're highly confident with the trends that native-born workers are replacing the illegal workers that are either now not new coming to the country or going back to their homes. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Kevin Hassett, from earlier today, right outside of the White House after those job numbers did come out. So we want to continue now to talk about the element with tariffs and where that's at right now. Live look at the White House. Want to now bring you Fox News' Jared Halpern with the breakdown.
Congress is back from its summer break, and Democrats are once again ramping up to challenge President Trump's tariff war. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says lawmakers are planning to force votes on bills that would reverse the tariff policy, citing Friday's weaker-than-expected jobs report as proof that tariffs are not working.
It's no accident why we're here. A lot of Donald Trump's policies have pushed us here. His tariffs are sending prices up. They're not creating jobs.
But the White House is pushing back, claiming the jobs will be coming because the tariffs are motivating companies to invest in domestic manufacturing. But all those new factories will take time to build.
A deficit situation that President Trump inherited from Joe Biden that looked very, very dire is now looking really pretty optimistic.
The back and forth in Washington came just hours after Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick announced a new trade agreement with Japan is now in effect. It will set a 15% tariff and see Japan invest $550 billion into U.S. manufacturing in exchange for lower import taxes on Japanese cars.
We have created a very advantageous relationship with Japan so they can do business with America, the greatest consumers in the world.
There's no word on when Democrats will introduce their anti-tariff bill, but it's expected to come within the next few weeks. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that for you right here on Live Now from Fox.
The child, if she believed the child was born alive or what have you. But again, the evidence that's going to be key here, other witness statements, if any, the medical records, obviously the autopsy results themselves, and a forensic examination of the crime scene, the closet and the blanket that the baby was found wrapped in. All of that is going to be critical as far as the state's evidence is concerned.
And when you are talking about a case like this, again, you kind of touched on it, but you're talking about a newborn and you have these inconclusive results there. What makes this case maybe challenging for investigators, but also for prosecutors?
Well, again, it leaves the door open for the defense to argue that the child died before birth, that it was stillborn, or that even if it died after birth, that death was accidental. So again, if the prosecution is seeking to prove that Laken was responsible for the death of the child without conclusive autopsy results, that's a pretty steep hill for them to climb.
And kind of going in reverse a little bit, can you explain some of the charges that she does face there?
Yeah. Well, again, I think they've already talked about some of the charges that they're currently are alleging tampering with evidence. I think other charges, concealing the birth. I think that's also one that's been mentioned here. An abuse of a corpse could be another one. Again, these are low-level felony charges. They center on her actions after the death of the child. Whereas homicide, if the prosecution were to seek that, would require proving that the child was intentionally harmed after birth.
Kind of looking beyond the courtroom, so to speak, when you talk about women's health, does this story kind of lead into a story about that as well?
Yeah, I think so. You know, this case highlights sensitive topics regarding women's health, especially mental health and the mental health and of a young mother. You know, this is a young college co-ed here, and the pressures that young mothers face. You can already see this in traditional media, certain articles out there already, as well as social media. There's lots of comments ranging from, you know, what was she thinking, to, you know, don't rush to judgment. Maybe this was an accident. So this case certainly raises questions regarding social stigma and accountability.
And on that same note, prosecutors dealing with this case itself, but they also are getting that intense public reaction from folks out there all over social media, not just in the Lexington, Kentucky area, but honestly all over the country. So how do they balance the legal process with the emotional weight of this case and the public scrutiny?
Well, if they're doing their job properly and they're focused on seeking justice, which is what should be their mission, rather than just obtaining convictions, then they're going to have to separate the legal issues from the media hype. It's certainly easier said than done, especially in areas where there might be additional political pressure. If you've got a prosecutor who's coming up for re-election, and you know, and it's a kind of what we call a law and order part of the country, you know, that's going to add additional pressure. You know, no prosecutor wants to appear soft on crime, and with these inconclusive autopsy results, I'm not sure that many prosecutors are going to relish going after this young mother if the evidence that they have is inconclusive to establish the manner of death. So I think the key for the prosecution here is that they need to focus on the evidence and focus on making sure that due process is maintained, regardless of public pressure.
Dan Gerald, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. A very disturbing case here. We're going to wait to see the next results that come out and what happens with the investigation. Anything else you want to add here about any of this before I let you go?
Yeah, it's just, you know, I'm curious about whether or not the autopsy is complete, whether they've come to that final determination, or whether at this point, because that's kind of what I'm hearing, at this point it's inconclusive. I think that, you know, once that is fully determined, that's really going to play a big role in where the case goes from that point.
All right, Dan, thank you again for taking the time to join us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh.
Sure. So there's a series of vaccines that children have between almost birth and about 10 to 11 years of age. They consist of 17 different shots to cover, about a dozen different